What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's me, Walter Tuomi, representing Neo Defective Gaming once again, aka Neo Defective. You can find me over on twitch.tv/NeoDefective every now and again, pretty much. Usually during the demon hours, otherwise known as the Oni hours. Yeah, guys, today is February 2nd, 2022, and we are bringing some more banger news, all right? A couple weeks ago, Microsoft blew up the internet, destroyed the internets by purchasing Activision Blizzard. Sony has more or less done their retort, and this is not so much a response from Sony as it is just like they had been working this deal out for quite some time, and this deal being that they pretty much purchased Bungie for 3.6 billion. Holy cannoli, that's a ridiculous amount. So this one over at gamesindustry.biz, Brendan Sinclair, managing editor, writing out that Sony pretty much bought Bungie for 3.6 billion. Destiny Studio will remain multi-platform, able to self-publish and reach players wherever they choose. So Sony Interactive Entertainment today announced a deal to acquire Bungie for 3.6 billion, the latest in a string of big-ticket consolidation deals in the games industry. After the deal closes, Bungie will be an independent subsidiary of SIE, run by a board of directors consisting of current CEO and chairman Pete Parsons and the rest of the studio's current management team. Sony has said Bungie will remain a multi-platform studio with the option to self-publish and reach players wherever they choose to. At present, the studio is working on maintaining Destiny 2, expanding Destiny franchise, and working on new IP. We've had a strong partnership with Bungie since the inception of the Destiny franchise, and I couldn't be more thrilled to officially welcome the studio to the PlayStation family, said SIE President CEO Jim Ryan. This is an important step in our strategy to expand the reach of PlayStation to a much wider audience. We understand how vital Bungie's community is to the studio and look forward to supporting them as they remain independent and continue to grow. Like Bungie, our community is core to PlayStation's DNA, and our shared passion for the gamer and building the best place to play will now evolve even further. Parsons said SIE supported the studio's dual goals of making generation-spanning entertainment while staying creatively independent. So, and that's the other thing. Bungie also had kind of this rapport going around for a while, and they're trying to kind of recover from it by implementing HR and like a non-union, but more an increase in awareness in trying to establish a way to prevent this toxic, I guess, male culture that pretty much pervades, I guess, a majority of the industry. This deal caps off a massive January for games industry acquisitions. Take-Two announced an agreement to acquire Zynga for roughly 12.7 billion in January 11th, and Microsoft followed up with 68.7 billion deal for Activision Blizzard a week later. This would be the second time Bungie has been bought off by a platform holder. Microsoft acquired the studio in June of 2000, securing its then upcoming shooter Halo as an exclusive title for the original Xbox's 2001 launch. Bungie would regain its independence shortly after the launch of Halo 3 in October of 2007. It produced two more exclusive Halo games for the company, Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach, before signing a 10-year deal with Activision that would lead to the creation of the Destiny franchise. Sony no longer wants to remain a closed-off console. This is going to pretty much establish the current trend going forward. I think this is not so much big news in the scope that they bought a company for 3.6 billion. Obviously, the money isn't even nowhere near what Activision Blizzard was acquired for. What this does is set the precedent and why there might not be a need for E3 anymore. And what I mean by that is Sony is now trying to establish itself into every single console, being PC, Xbox, Nintendo. If Nintendo allows it, they usually don't play nice when they get higher up, but I mean, they do try to incorporate more edgy titles now as far as the Switch goes. They are also trying to get probably into the phone space, I'm sure. They want to go mobile, and this is the best way to do it, to allow yourself to be more open. So everybody in the industry was talking about Xbox Game Pass going to be on PlayStation. Well, it probably turns out that they were one step ahead and wanted that the whole time. They probably were trying to find a way to incorporate Xbox Game Pass onto the PlayStation. So PlayStation is no longer just a console. It's now just like a PlayStation box, the Sony box, that is capable of having its own library that's also going to produces AAA games that also is going to be shared on PC, possibly Microsoft. But then also they're going to be showing more games, pretty much like say your Little Big Planets, and they're going to be showing those to mobile designers such as Android and Apple. Like, those are kind of where you want to go. You want to see those going the iOS route. That's where they want to see them going. And I think this really is the first step, and this is going to be a step that Microsoft is also going to get into. This is what Nintendo is kind of already been dabbling with. How much content these developers and these massive studios are going to be acquiring is just how much more money they can put into not only each other's wallets, but increasing the amount of exposure that these games are going to be reaching. I mean, they're going to be going to pretty much everyone. Like, Nintendo's no longer going to be just the family company. Sony has always been more about branching out. Xbox now is just trying to acquire studios and trying to get these other companies, such as, like Nintendo and Sony, to be more like dependent on them. If you want Call of Duty, like one of the bigger games, if you want Fallouts, if you want all these other AAA games, you're gonna have to allow us to be on your console. Well, Sony's like, that's fine. Matter of fact, we're gonna give you our games as well, and not only that, we're gonna put them on other platforms as well. So this has kind of always been the way. But then also, the more you think about it too, Xbox, Microsoft have always allowed their games to be on PC as well. Like, they've gone the PC route way ahead of time. Like, they were way in that space way before Sony ever was. It's a bigger deal, I guess. It's just a big deal for Sony to do it because it's so relatively new. All right, this one over at the Twitters, we have Jim Ryan, Sony Interactive Entertainment president and CEO, tweeting out some of the interviews that he recently did discussing what PlayStation's plan was. And they're really starting to show their cards. Like, they want to be on everything. They want to have Discord and PlayStation together as one. And that's huge. That's huge. Like, you gotta have those two rolling out together. But then Jim Ryan also shows off his gamesindustry.biz interview, in which he talks about what the Bungie deal is for, like what their intentions for. This is pretty much, like he says, it was 6 months in the making, and the Bungie deal is all about allowing them to still be independent. They've tweeted out that they still wanted to be like, we are still independent, but at the end of the day, they're still gonna have a little bit of tug. They're not gonna have full range the way that they're kind of making it out to be. Sony's still gonna be like, hey, we want it to be done this way on our platform first, or platforms exclusives. It's gonna be a little bit of a give and take. But also, Jim Ryan talks about wanting to improve upon the culture that Bungie was also trying to improve upon. So they're going to be taking bigger steps, the same way that Microsoft is making sure that they're going to be taking bigger and better steps, bolder strides, to make sure that Blizzard and Activision no longer has that frat boy culture that's been going on. Some more news that came out about trying to prevent the unionization of the Activision union that was currently brought up. And again, they brought it up. There hasn't been any more news about them actually going through with that process, but I don't think that's a necessarily good thing for the industry, but I think it's probably a step that's going to happen. And it's good for the individuals, the people, to get rest, the people that make the games. It's good for them to get rest. Again, when I say industry, it's not good for the industry. It's going to raise prices of video games, possibly where they actually need to be. Right now, $70 games, I'm thinking that video games are actually worth more than that. If you think about it, how much time and labor and people go into it, and how much energy and time it takes to actually make these things, you're looking at probably $100+ games. And I think if you unionize, that's what's going to also increase the price and games in general. It's going to probably slow down the market, but it's going to increase the price of games. But I also think the quality of video games is going to improve with unionization. So I mean, there's give and takes. There's bads, there's pros, and it's just pros and cons are kind of just the meat and potatoes of every single move that's ever going to be made in the corporate world. And games as a corporate world is just something that Jim Ryan also has to allude upon. So what he actually goes on to say to GameIndustry.biz is, the first thing to say unequivocally is that Bungie will stay independent, multi-platform studio and publisher. The interview goes on to say for Jim Ryan is that the first thing to say unequivocally is that Bungie will stay an independent, multi-platform studio and publisher. Pete Parsons, CEO, and I have spoken about many things over recent months, and this was one of the first and actually the easiest and most straightforward conclusions we ever reached together. Everybody wants the extremely large Destiny 2 community, whatever platform they're on, to be able to continue to enjoy their Destiny 2 experiences, and that approach will apply to future Bungie releases. That is unequivocal. What I also think it pretty much says is that they're going to be focusing more on free-to-play and games as a service. That's pretty much been a creeping up standard of what video games have become these days, especially online multiplayer games as they're made. He continues that Pete and I have spent a lot of time talking, and we were struck by how similarly we see the world and just how complementary our two organizations are. We're like two pieces of jigsaw that can slot together. They make massive immersive games that have no end, whereas PlayStation's strength, as you know, is in the single player narrative rich stories. Our studios make those games, and they are some of the best games you'll find anywhere. And that's another thing as well, right? So that we have always known Sony, when it comes to their studios, make great single player games. How do they hit that market to start making and better multiplayer games? They always have a multiplayer component added on to all their single player games, and they're never as fully fleshed out as, like, say, a Destiny or a Halo, where it's almost multiplayer first, or even like a Call of Duty, right? So now they have somebody like Bungie making games like this for the last couple decades, or 25 years, I guess, making games that are pretty much online, and Sony has always needed to get into that world, and to allow Destiny to have that free space to be on all these different platforms. We're going to see that with a majority of the games that are also going to be released going forward. Like, Sony is going to be making sure that they get into every single echo chamber of gaming. Like, they need to have that, and this is a good step. It just shows that this is their first play at showing how much they're trying to expand. So philosophically, this isn't about pulling things in the PlayStation world. This is about building huge and wonderful new worlds together. Sure. Meanwhile, on the Bungie side, Pete Parsons tells GamesIndustry.biz that Sony offers the ability to accelerate its own plans, which includes the prospect of taking its IP to new entertainment mediums such as TV and film, which pretty much we've seen from Bungie wanting to do in the first place. They've done it. Back in 2016, we set a vision for ourselves to create worlds and inspire friendships. We wanted to become one of the world's greatest entertainment companies, and more than that, become a center of creativity and technical excellence, so that no matter where you are or who you are, how you identify, you can feel that you come to Bungie and do your best work. Even though we've been working closely together since 2013 with Destiny, it was remarkable how close Sony and our visions were. Now, again, like, when you go back to the live service, this is probably a thing to better hint on. I would go back to us doing live service games ourselves, but when you have the potential to have a partner like Bungie who has been there, done it all before, learned the lessons, and got this wonderful, brilliant team who is there and have the potential to help us, we think we can take something that would have taken a certain number of years and significantly decrease the time it will take to get it right. That's what we were talking about, right? That's the big nail right there that they were trying to hit. So there's still some corporate speak here that, even though it's a little looser, allowing Jim Ryan to kind of speak his part, there is, I'm sure, a narrative that they have to go by to make sure that what he says is very corporatized. I mean, he is the CEO and president, so he has he has a role to fulfill.
This is an area that Sony takes incredibly seriously, Ryan stated. We hold ourselves to extremely high standards throughout the organization and with the businesses that we partner. This is something that I have been incredibly insensitive to. That's wrong. This is something that I have been incredibly sensitive to right from the start of the conversations, and I have been nothing but impressed, and I have nothing but the highest praise for the way that Bungie organizes and conducts itself. There are a number of areas that Sony can learn from Bungie. Philanthropy is a cornerstone value, and I think that speaks to everything. So again, talking each other up, we should absolutely expect more. He concludes, we are by no means done. With PlayStation, we have a long way to go. I will personally be spending a lot of my time with Pete and the team at Bungie, helping make sure that everything beds down right and that autonomy means autonomy. But elsewhere in the organization, we have many more moves to make. Again, this is just the beginning. We know how this is gonna go. Okay, let's take ourselves over to IGN because, as I said before in the beginning of this video, it's February. And February has been a month, traditionally, that has been the hotbed of the best releases in the video games industry across all platforms. So now we're going to be looking at something that has been, I mean, Game of the Year pretty much written all over it. This entire month has had Game of the Year games all over it in so many different ways. I don't know if you guys are ready. I mean, Godspeed, gamers. Like, we got so many things that are about to happen this month. We have Sifu. We have Life is Strange, the remastered collection, Dynasty Warrior 9, King of Fighters 15, Horizon Forbidden West, Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, Monarch, Grid Legends, Martha is Dead, which somebody recommended to me recently, Elden Ring, and Evil Dead the Game. Now, I myself lean more toward the Sifu, King of Fighters 15, Horizon, and Elden Ring. Those are the games that get me the most hype. Yes, there's single player, but there's also multiplayer experiences. Fear not, fellow gamers, girls and boys. Like, this is a crazy month. This is a massive month for us as gamers and developers as well. Like, we want to see all these rich lore and beautiful game worlds that these developers have been putting together for years finally released to our doorsteps, released out in stores, and now we're gonna be able to actually enter those worlds, get fully immersed, and hopefully enjoy everything that these people have done for us as gamers. Like, I give so much praise to developers. I don't think they can get enough, regardless of, you know, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like, sometimes I'm like, dude, look, I get that that's some terrible stuff that back there that happens in certain companies and organizations, but you see the outcome of some of these games, and you just want to respect the people that have been pushing together, that have been relying upon each other for so long and dependent upon each other and pretty much risking it for their families. And these are the games that we get to see. These games are massive. Elden Ring, guys. I'm gonna be streaming Elden Ring, I can tell you that. Also, Sifu coming up this week. Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Just me looking at this is just blowing my mind. All right, with that, guys, pretty much ending this video. Just make sure you can find me over on twitch.tv/neodefective, again during the demon hours. Also on the Twitters, on the TikToks, the Instagrams, here, there, everywhere at neodefective. You guys, what a week. What a month. What a time to be alive. I can't wait to see you guys online and all these games. Also, I play a lot of Genshin, guys. I've been playing so much Genshin. Love me some Genshin. Anyways, if you've been here before, you know what it is. Stay dirty, humans.